Welcome back to Backroomconvos. I'm your host with the most, Ysl Rico, aka Shoot Your Shot, and maybe you might get a chance to call me Daddy like Cairo. Listen, if you are a fan of sports, stay tuned because you might like what today's episode. Yeah, song of the day is Lifestyle by Resego M, which featured people like Young Thug, Rich Homie Quan, and Batman. That's the entire squad. And talking about this lifestyle song, I remember a podcast by Rori. Is it Rori and Mel? Rori. My Rori is African. Rori. So it's by Rori and Mel. They based in the USA. They had, I think, an episode where I don't know who that dude is. I think he's an engineer or something in that podcast. And they were talking about something amongst feminism and all that, and within that he said, he let his intuitive thoughts win, and he made a comment like something wrong with the person while they was discussing something that's very important. Well, I get that Mel was very offended, and even the guest female was very offended, because how do you do that? And given the fact that she's not even a host of the podcast, it was very, from that angle it was. But at the same time, for someone who's watching the podcast, Rory and Mel podcast, I was like, oh, this is funny, And I felt the same way. And it's not only me who felt like that was very funny. A lot of people in the internet felt like that was very funny, because I think how they chopped it up, podcasts, they have tools where you can use to chop up the videos for a segment, or snippets for the podcast for the highest moment within that podcast, and use that to get trends, or convert that to people who are going to watch in YouTube. They use those snippets in TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook to convert viewers, of those snippets to go watch the full episode. And I think that was a very decent snippet to take out and represent that episode, even though that wasn't sensitive at that time, but would make something out of it. And I think it brought them a couple of numbers, given the fact that I don't know if people have a background of the Joe Budden podcast, but when it was starting, I don't remember when Joe Budden started, but the podcast started by Joe Budden. But when it started, it had people like Mel and Rori. So Mel is the dark dude, Rori is the white dude, and there was Joe Budden, and they were doing very well at some point. They were doing very well. They were going on tours. The first time I think that I heard about a podcast tour, it's when I was watching the Joe Budden podcast, and they're very informative podcast in about culture, hip hop, and Hollywood. And this doesn't just come from someone who's outside looking inside and just giving the perspective from that angle. But Joe Budden is someone who is a rapper, who has been a rapper and has been within the industry, and has worked with people, or has had encounters with people like Jay-Z, had encounters with people like Nas. He has been in street battles, so he's been to Hollywood. He knows a lot about the industry and a lot of things that happen within the industry, so you don't just get that. So with Rori as well, I think it's the same, because he used to work for a label. I believe he used to work for a label, and I just don't know for sure what Mel's role is within the space, where, because I don't think I've ever paid attention to his credentials as far as the podcast, because they had a great blend that you tend to look over the fact that you tend to look over the credentials because of the value that they bring in their platform, right? I don't know if that makes any sense to anyone that's listening. So that happened, great podcast. But then I think when it started, I think Joe Budden didn't have a role for everybody in the podcast. So everybody was getting paid, but they were never told what they were employed. It was just a thing, come, let's rock, and they rock. This thing becomes, they shoot, it becomes big, and they're like, wait, aren't we supposed to be getting shares of this thing? We are not even supposed to be giving us salaries. We are supposed to be partners, because when we start with a discussion that this is, a partnership, in the one thing that's boring about that, it's that the entire arrangement or the entire discussion was verbal, so nobody can like speak on it or like proof check it or like verify it, because it's verbal. So the only people who know what went on that room when they were discussing the terms and conditions of their podcast are those three people. And now nothing can be said or used against one another because of that verbal agreement. So I think later on, Rori and Well went on obviously to start their own thing, and like before that, and I think there's still beef even now because of like what Joe Budden did, and at some point Rori and Well were not being paid, and people, like a huge chunk of people, as you might all know, the people who are like in like the scouts, the who are informed as far as like what's happening in hip hop or like the culture, the hip hop culture in the United States, you might know like people don't really like Joe Budden, So a lot of people, when that went down, a lot of people went out to support Rori and Mel, right? Rori and Mel. But at this point, as we talk, like Joe is still bigger than them, but that's not the point though. I'm not comparing anything. So they went out on their own, he went out on his own, they did their thing, and it's good, it's working. And I think even Joe Budden, how this situation unfolded, it choked Wuti. Even if he was saying, no, I did say to this homies that I am the boss, boom, boom. But the fact is, if you did say to these homies, how you're handling this entire situation, from my perspective, it's very wrong. Or like, I might have a sentiment or two about how this was handled, and I'm like, well, it just seems more like you were partners, like they do say, so I don't know what really happened with that case. I just think everybody just went their separate ways. They started pushing. I think now, I don't know, like, because Joe Budden's podcast is still running, right? It's still running. It's doing very great. It's doing very great because they have like a couple of co-hosts. I know even people like Nicki Minaj who went there to talk about the album launch Pink Friday 2, which is like this to the Pink Friday one of Nicki Minaj's album, which was released in 2010, 2011, if I'm not mistaken. So she went there to talk about that. So it just goes to show how credible that platform is as far as the hip hop is concerned. Because there was even a time, I think Nicki and Joe Budden have been having a relationship, because they've been in a cypher where Joe Budden was like cluing off the cypher, and Nicki was a part of that cypher as well. So like they've had a relationship outside of that. And as I said when we started, we could see Joe Budden is nobody. He's not looking from the outside in. He's someone who's giving insight from the inside out. It's like giving his perspective from the inside out. So that is where Joe Budden comes from. So like from a lot of like his actions and who he is. So a lot of people like tend to not like who he is. So everybody did great. They did great. I don't know the arrangement that the guys with it. I think it should have been a learning curve for Joe Budden to say, hey, I don't want to go through the same predicament with people that are within my space. So they need to understand the terms. That's the terms of working, the terms of employment. They need to understand they are not my partners. They are employed to do a job. And it's the same way, like I believe, I don't know, and it's not verified by anyone. I think though, with his Son and McG had an arrangement, they're getting paid. Black Studios, who are the guys that are shooting podcast and chill, they also getting paid, and they understand their role within that, so that's why I get a sense that they're getting paid, and there's a chain of command that they understand as employees of that particular company, so yes, that's what I wanted to highlight and say, let's just hope Joe has that going on within that podcast, and it's going bigger and better, and kudos to him. And I don't know how we got here. I think the lifestyle soul just led us here. And just to speak more about the lifestyle soul, and for those of you who missed it, the YSL trial started on Thursday. It commenced again on Wednesday, for those of you who didn't know. So yeah, for those of you who didn't know, Young Thug's lawyer, Young Thug's lawyer used the lifestyle song in court. He used the lifestyle song in court. I think it was to say something about Batman and Rich Homie Quan. Rich Homie Quan, is it Rich Homie Quan? I think Rich Homie Quan also has a song with Kesta. I think to prove something about, the two guys, and the judge didn't take it because he said, this can only be taken in if those two people come forward and say, like, we can use this A policy. It can't be the person that's being charged to that, So yes, that's the other element. I think this is the source of the news. I'm going to read out something that happened yesterday, of course, from the trial. And the source of what we're going to talk about now, the source is 11alive.com articles. So this speaks on the Ysl Rico case. So everything that I'll be saying from now, it's everything that's written on the article. So the heading of the article is Ysl Rico trial. Why was the song Lifestyle played in court? The song came into play during Thursday proceedings in the Ysl Rico trial, right? So this goes as follows. Atlanta is the place. ATL, for those of you who didn't know. So it was the article was published on the 11th, which was yesterday. The Rico trial against Ysl and Ysl took a brief musical turn into a court on Thursday. Oh my God, on Thursday, with playing the song Lifestyle featuring the Atlanta rapper, which is Young Thug. The song roughly is 4 minutes 56 seconds long. I did see that in Spotify because I was looking at the numbers as well. So it was fully played for the jury in court. The matter of Young Thug lyrics being used as evidence has come up before from the prosecutor, who wanted to use the lyrics to paint a picture of the rapper and the ringleader of an alleged YSL street gang. But in this case, it was actually Young Thug's lawyer, Brian Steele, who brought up the music video for the song, right? So these are the reasons behind why the lawyer brought them up. YSL Lifestyle by Young Thug was played in court. Steele, the lawyer, wanted to introduce the music video as evidence for his argument that Young Thug has no gang ties, and that much of a prosecution case simply criminalizes the rapper's art, right? Steele told the judge he wanted to use the music video in testimony with the YSL co-founder Stevens. Stevens is the guy, like the YSL co-founder, which is like a group. They call it a group, but I still think it's a gang. And I still think Young Thug is guilty, if you ask me. A lot of us know it's guilty, but it's caught, we need to let it unfold. So to establish three things from this, one, I'm going to read out all three reasons from the lawyer. One of his reasons, he said, was the following, was that the video featured the group Rich Gang, and still argued he was entitled to show the jurors what Rich Gang is, and that is the music compilation. The second reason Steele said was that it showed other people wearing red, the color associated with the Blood Gang in the United States. If you know the Bloods, the Crips, you'd know why I said is associated with the Blood Gangs. I continue. So allegedly YSL gang colors, which also is, in the same parallel law, assigned or aligned with like the colors that YSL gang is wearing, and they being associated with the Bloods in Atlanta, ATL. But not Young Thug, whose legal name is Jeffrey Williams. And that reason from Steele, he wanted to show the video in parts to explain Young Thug's relationship with two other rappers in the music video, who is Rich Homie Quan and Batman. So this, I'm going to read out the last part before we go on an ad break. Was the video allowed to be introduced as evidence? Some of the questions that you guys had. So this is the answer. The judge would not allow it to be introduced as evidence at this time during the questioning of Stevens, who is a co-founder of Ysl, So the judge considered that the evidence is relevant and admissible for the reason you told me, but said it would have to come from either one of the guys who have been mentioned, who is the first guy being Batman and the second guy being Rich Homie Kwan, and possibly either Batman or Rich Homie Kwan must come up and bring that evidence, and not Young Thug himself, because he's the one being charged here with the Rico case. So I quote, "I understand this is a state case and you are trying to get what you need, and he's just not the witness to do so." So this is the judge telling still being the lawyer of Young Thug. I don't know if that makes any sense. If it doesn't, do let me know in the comment section. Moving right along. So this is the last section I'm reading about this. Then we head over to the break. After a brief argument from Theo to reconsider, the judge added, "I'm going to look at the evidence depending on the circumstance before me. Remember what I told you about the lyrics and everything else. It depends upon what is presented in terms of foundation. I believe I made myself very clear." This is the judge, So for those of you who are still interested in following the trial, the YSL trial, I'll keep you posted. I'll just touch on it. I won't touch on it as much as I have now, but I'll try to give you snippets of whatever that's happened. So for those of you who want to know an update on what's going to happen as far as the YSL case is concerned, so the trial will be taking a break on Friday and will go through next week, resuming the next week after. The judge told the court that the break was for the jurors to take some time off and handle personal matters. So yeah, that's about it. Do let me know what you think on the comment section. I'm your host at the most, Ysl Report, aka Shoot Your Shot, and maybe you might get a chance to call me daddy like Cairo. Let's meet after the break. Cheers. Welcome back to Backroom Convos. I'm your host at the most, Ysl Report, aka Shoot Your Shot, and maybe you might get a chance to call me daddy like Cairo. Listen, if you are a fan of pods, stay tuned because you might like what we're cooking. Before the break, we were talking about the YSL Young Thug, the Rico case that they have, and the court has been postponed to Tuesday next week for the jurors to take a break or some personal time off. So we did cover that, and the song of the day, for those of you who are wondering, the song of the day is Lifestyle by Young Thug, which was released 2014, featuring Batman and Rich Homie Kwan, and currently I think it sits at 256 million on Spotify alone. The song is 4 minutes and 29 seconds long. I think I made a mistake when I said 4 minutes and 59 seconds long on the first segment. Do forgive me. So moving right along, right? So a lot has been happening, but before I touch on the ICJ and the trial that's been going on around, South Africa and the case with Gaza, I want to talk about multi-choice. Talk a bit about multi-choice, and this is a statement which was released about the AFCON games. And yeah, this was released by Thomas Mlambo, and I saw this from Thomas Mlambo. It's a statement from MultiChoice. MultiChoice statement reads as follows: SuperSport to broadcast all AFCON games live after MultiChoice secured the broadcasting rights on January the 10th, 2024. SuperSport will broadcast all 52 matches of the Total Engine CAF African Cup of Nations in Cote d'Ivoire 2023 AFCON live after MultiChoice has secured the right to broadcast the continent's showpiece tournament. The tournament should kick off on the 13th of January 2024 until the 11th of February 2024. So it's a month long, from the 13th of January to the 11th of February. So MultiChoice reached a commercial reached a commercial viable agreement with stakeholders New World TV and WTV, for those of you who didn't know, to broadcast the 30th edition of Africa's premier men football competition taking place in Ivory Coast. So SuperSport CEO said, "We are delighted to be able to showcase the best of African football in live television for our viewers. As part of this agreement, the chairman or directing manager of NW declared, by securing the right to CAN 2023 under the leadership of Dr. Patrice Motsepe, SuperSport and NW has proved that nothing is more important than the happiness of Africans and the happiness of Africans who wish to follow the exploits of their favorite team during the biggest football competition in Africa. SuperSport, the lead in African broadcasting on the continent, will bring an unveiled coverage to all games, with matches available on DSTV as well as GoTV across Africa." This was released by MultiChoice by the senior manager in corporate communication, corporate affairs. Choice, but I got it from. And yeah, that's what I wanted to cover before I speak about this. So this is the big one now, right? So South Africa is taking the genocide case against Israel to the ICJ, International Criminal Justice, which has different lawyers from different places, extremely South Africa and Saudi Arabia. So it has lawyers from the United States, Somalia, Brazil, where else? I know there's a couple of names, but I just forgot. But it has nine seats, and some of those lawyers, as I said, they come from China, Russia, USA, Somalia, Brazil. I just forgot the four other judges from different places. So those are some, to mention a few. So that came out in Europe. The BBC and the surrounding network, or the umbrella networks, are not broadcasting the genocide case that's happening in Gaza. That's happening in what South Africa is suing Gaza for, or what South Africa is suing Israel for. They're not broadcasting it. So I don't know what the reason are. For sure, but this goes to speak on what Naledi Pandor, and shout out to Naledi Pandor, by the way. She has been very key and instrumental into this happening, and her voice as far as international hypocrisy. He was saying, yes, and I did cover this the last time. She was saying, it's happening in what you call I forgot the place where Russia was attacking that place. So he said it's fine when it's happening there, and we show support. Everyone is in unity, is working in unity to make sure that everybody in that place is all covered. Supplies are being taken into the country in Ukraine, right? Supplies are being taken in within Ukraine, and everything is being done right. And everybody, the narrative is driven against Russia, but first world countries, we know Cold War, so we know that. And Putin is also came out and said, we know the strategies and how the United States work, and they've been supporting Ukraine, so they can use that as the sphere of interest, so they can spy on what Russia is doing on the nuclear arms and everything, all these superpower countries. So I think it's there. They want to spy on Russia and hopefully get the surrounding neighborhoods, and whatever they do have there, they also want to take it under them. So Russia is making that happen. So the same thing is happening in Gaza, Israel, Palestine. It's happening. And now the question is that why was USA supplying or in support of Ukraine when was this happening, but now this is happening in Palestine, it's happening in Israel, and they're not taking a side and they're not supporting any party within this. Is this an agenda that they have to say, because we wanted this from this and we want this from this? And I know for sure there is something to gain for them within like the pipelines of trading. If Gaza wins that plot of land that they're fighting for, there is something huge for them to win in that, so they're trying to secure that. So that's why they need support of Gaza instead of Palestine. So Palestine, on the other hand, they are fighting back to say like, this is our land and we've been here, they've been fighting, and they're getting support from all over the world, and they're getting coverage for everything that they do. They're getting supply, the same support that we're getting from the world, the same support that Ukraine was getting from the world. Palestine is getting that support, right? So one of those countries being South Africa. And after they had announced that they're taking this to the IJC, which is the International Criminal Justice. Yeah, is it criminal justice? I just looked it up. So after they have announced that, another place, or the Arab League, came out to announce their support for South Africa's genocide case against Israel in the ICJ. So yeah, now we started. I think it's safe to speak about the ICJ and how it works in this case, and these are some of the key questions that I'm going to answer. The first question is, what is the ICJ? The ICJ is the International Court of Justice, has a dual role to settle in accordance with the international law, the legal dispute, the legal law. It says the legal law, the legal dispute. I think here there was supposed to be a full stop. A legal dispute made to it by the state and give to advisory opinion on legal questioning reference to it by dual authority international organs and agencies. South Africa's application falls under these forms. So who sits at the ICJ? The International Court of Justice is composed of 15 judges. I'm sorry, I said 9. 15 judges elected to a 9-year 7-period term of office by the United Nations and General Assembly and the Security Council. In this current point, these judges hail from South USA. They come from USA, Russia, Slovakia, France, Morocco, Somalia, China, Uganda, India, Jamaica, Lebanon, Japan, Germany, Australia, and Brazil. Israel and South Africa are appointed. Israel and South Africa can appoint one ad hoc judge each to join the bench, so neither is represented. How long will this case take? Some of the key questions. A full judgment from the court determining whether Israel has committed genocide in Gaza will likely take years to emerge. A 2019 case that Cambodia brought against the Malinama for the military crackdown refugee is in trial, for example, for more than 4 years after it began. So this is definitely going to take a bit of time. So I'm going to read you more, and it's been a lot of reading in this episode. And apologies for those of you who are listening to me read and like they don't hear anything I'm saying, or they don't understand. Just ask on the comment section that you ask your photo sources. I'll send you the link so you can go out there and read. As per the 1984 convention, genocide means any of the following acts committed within the intent to destroy, with an intent to destroy, in which or put part a nation, ethical, race or religion group, such as killing member of the group, causing serious bodily or mental harm to a member of the group, deliberately inflicting on the other group condition of life, calculating to bring about its physical destruction in the whole or in part, imposing measures intended to prevent the birth within the group, forcible transferring children to another group. Both Israel and South Africa, signatories to the United Nations Genocide Convention, which gives the ICJ the highest United Nations legal body jurisdiction to rule on dispute over the treaty. Under the Genocide Convention, national states may file charges of genocide against other countries, whether or not they are directly involved in the conflict. In the 2019, Cambodia, on behalf of the Organization of the Islamic Cooperation, petitioned the court against Myanmar. I don't know what the place is. Myanmar, over its atrocities against the people. So this is another one. How does this all work? This is how it all works. The first part of the case against Israel began in January the 11th, 2024, which was yesterday, focusing on specific emergency requests by South Africa asking the ICJ to urgently order the Israel military out of Gaza and force Israel to stop indiscriminate bombing of civilians. Here, both legal terms will represent the arguments to full 17 judges. Is it not 15, 17, including the two from Israel and South Africa, because they're not represented. So that's why it's 17 judges. So while the provisional hearing will be over in a matter of weeks, the main cause, which will determine whether Israel is indeed guilty of committing genocide, as South Africans claim, it will take a haggle based on the courts will give both parties time to build and submit more details against their arguments. Multiple hearings will be followed. After that, the judges will take a vote and then a final decision will be announced. So this is what will happen after the judge reaches the decision. The ICJ's ruling is legally binding and cannot be appealed. However, the court has no raw power of enforcement. If Israel doesn't comply, South Africa can approach the United Nations Security Council for enforcement, but the US Israel number one backed his veto power as the permanent member of Washington could shield Israel from punishment, as it has done multiple times in this war. Since 1945, the US has vetoed 45 out of 36 United Nations Security Council drafted solutions related to the Israel-Palestine conflict. Yeah, I think this is where I must end. So, is this the last slide we have? Okay, this is the last slide we have. Oh no, I still repeat, guys, if this doesn't make any sense, do send me a voice note, do send me a message so I can give you the source so you can read for yourself in case this doesn't make sense to you, whatever that I'm reading. I'm not a good reader, but I'm trying my best to give you the best of content and bring, the most informative information to you. So then what's the point? As per the director of Washington based in the Middle East, it can have a significant impact on accountability in a different form, whether for documenting the experience of the victim, naming and shaming perpetrators, or settling an international precedent. Already the Organization of the Islamic Countries, which is a 57-member bloc that includes Saudi Arabia, Iraq, Pakistan, and Morocco, as well as Malaysia, Turkey, Jordan, Bolivia, the Maldives, Namibia, Pakistan, have voiced their support for South Africa's case against Israel. So that's the last of the case. That's the last of the case. So for those of you, but this is yesterday's information, so I can't really give you that information. Do let me know what you think about what I said about the ICJ and South Africa taking them to the International Criminal Justice, and what did you learn? I learned a lot. I didn't know that the International Criminal Justice had 15 judges, and 2 from each Israel and South Africa, because they're not represented there. And if they were represented, they were gonna be 17, but it's 15. And now they're seeking 1 from each party to be a part of the process, so making the number 17. I think that for me was a big one. I didn't even know. So yeah, I intend on giving you an update because it's very important. And for anybody who knows or thinks of someone who can come to the podcast, enlighten us on what's going on, who's a journalist, who's informed, just bring them in, us compile some very good or compelling questions for them, and possibly learn a lot from that. I'm your host with the most, Ysl and Ysl Rico, aka Shoot Your Shot, and maybe you might get a chance to call me Daddy, like Cairo. So one other thing, I forgot to give you a book of the day for yesterday, but I'm going to do that now. So the book of the day for today is The 4 Agreements, a political guide to personal what? I can't see. To personal development. Is it personal development? Personal. It's the 4. Just Google the 4 agreements, because I can't really open this. It's very slow. The 4 agreements. Well, it's a practical guide to personal freedom. It's a self-help book by the author Don Miguel. The book outlines a code of conduct based on the tech entrepreneur teaching that purport to improve one's life. The book has originally been published in 1997 by Amber Allen, published in San Rafael, California. Reading a few about the book. So the book was released 1997, a year after I was born. So it's a personal development book, spiritual self-help book. For those of you who are interested, do let me know what you think of that book. It was a pleasure and honor to be with you in this episode. Let's meet later on Backroomconvo. I'm your host with the most, Ysl and Ysl Rico, aka Shoot Your Shot, and maybe you might get a chance to call me Daddy like Cairo. Cheers.